Well, this is the second video in a series about different kinds of stuck churches and how to help them to get unstuck. And this particular church I'm talking about today is the indifferent church. This is a church where the congregation lacks concern about their lost momentum. And they're not really looking beyond the church doors anymore because they've kind of settled in. And they reflect this by saying statements like, "Whoa, we're big enough already. We've got enough programs going on and people are happy here, so we're a good, healthy, friendly church." Why do people become indifferent? It's because the pilot light in their souls go out quite often. They're no longer passionate about the things that God is passionate about. And they love being a small church. They love being, a safe place where they can come and get their needs met. And the smallness protects them from stress. Or the other reason why churches become indifferent is because the pastor becomes indifferent, because he's tried to lead them somewhere or tried new programs or tried new outreaches, and nobody just wants to get on board. They are not really engaged with the pastor's leadership, and he becomes discouraged. And once you become discouraged as a pastor, you no longer are really leading them anywhere. The church stays where it is. Let me challenge you here that if your people do not feel the urgency any longer about reaching lost people, you need to address this first by beginning to pray. You need to pray for yourself that God would renew your heart and take away your own indifference. You need wisdom from God to really help your people, and you need the presence of the Spirit in the congregation, because only the Spirit is going to renew this church. You're not going to renew them. Your programs, your strategies are not going to renew them. They have to be renewed from the inside out. So begin with prayer. Then secondly, find your inner circle. There are already people there in your congregation who feel like you do. They want God to do something more with this church. But you've got to find them and begin to spend time with them. You've got to focus time on them. Gordon MacDonald, a number of years ago, talked about this in his book, Renewing Your Spiritual Passion. And he talked about 4 different kinds of people that are in the church. There's the VIPs, the VTPs, the VNPs, and the VDPs. The VIPs are very important people. They're your co-workers. VTPs are very trainable people. They're ready to learn and eager to do so. Then you have VNPs, very nice people who like your sermons and like the church, but don't intend to do anything for God. And the VDPs are very draining people who are constantly looking for help and pulling time and resources away from everybody else to themselves. Gordon said that if pastors would spend 80% of their times with the VIPs and the VTPs, the church would grow. But instead, in indifferent churches, pastors spend 80% of their time trying to motivate the VNPs to do something and counsel and help the VDPs. You have to flip that on its head if you're going to have that inner circle that's going to help you to move this church from indifference and being stuck to being alive again. Thirdly, you want to preach and teach the people to renew themselves in the gospel and the goodness of their salvation. You'll never scold people into doing what they ought to do. You can't should them into it or ought them into it or must them into it. These are the words we tend to use when we're frustrated with people. You've got to get going somehow. You've got to do something for God. We need to do something for God. And even though we might feel passionate about that, remember, people don't respond to that. They respond to the Spirit. Don't should on them. Don't tell them what they must do. Let the Spirit show them what they ought to do and bring them alive. The fourth thing is, as people begin to come alive, take them on a vision tour. Take them out of the building. Let them meet the people in the neighborhood and see what God could be doing through them to reach these people, to feel compassion for these people in a fresh and new way. And finally, as people begin to become alive, and if they still want to be a small church, consider partnering with another local church to plant a third church, a new church in an area that needs the gospel. Because what people really need to do to what people really need to move from indifference to caring about what Jesus' kingdom is about is to see the dynamic work of God bringing people from the lost to the found, from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of the Son. Try these things out and begin to pray that God would wake up your church to the possibilities of what God could do through them. Next time I talk to you, I'll talk to you about the church with the broken spiritual past.